taking action to help society's vulnerable. There is a direct correlation between income and health. What these young families need is access to recreation facilities. And you know what? The letters to the editors and those individuals that are trying to say us that we should stop, I will not deviate. For the next 2 years of my office, I will not deviate from this direction. We will continue to move forward, we'll continue to invest in parks and recreation. And it'll be up to council, every calendar year, it'll be up to council whether they're going to say yea or nay to the level of investment. But if we truly care about those individuals that are marginalized in our community, those individuals that are suffering, we have the highest poverty rates in Welland, in all of Niagara. We have one of the worst poverty rates if you compare Niagara to the context of the province of Ontario. Our children are suffering. And we don't need any shiny Taj Mahals. We just need a place for kids to play. And we need a place where they can play with their parents because of the limited time they have. So I promise you this, I will continue to push forward. The sports complex is not going to be this Taj Mahal, it'll be a place where kids can play. And they will have access. And the burden to the taxpayers would be minimal. You'll see the plan this fall, it will be reasonable. But if we truly care about poverty, if we care about our kids, the solution is, and if we are astonished by the fact that a 9-year-old in Niagara has heart disease, if we are astonished at the fact that we have obesity rates that are above the provincial average, then we have to say we have to take action. And that action is in those simple things that we do to improve our community, like parks and recreation, and the quality of life that our citizens deserve. The next issue that you talked about, or asked me to talk about, was transportation. Commissioner Brothers did this, and I can't tell you, I've never seen a group of regional councillors more excited until they saw this map. Pretty complicated map, right? Everywhere you go with this big poster, they're pretty excited. Particularly, I think Paul Coburn and that council. You care about transportation, and we'll talk a little bit about Niagara Week, and I'll talk about the leadership that the chairman provided over the past 3 days when it comes to that. But I want to give you a sense of what this means behind me that you're looking at right now. And it is something that the chairman himself was pushing the last term of office, and now with the presence of Commissioner Brothers, it's starting to happen. And also, where is Mr. Shantz? My guy who's so cocky now because he's retiring. Is he here? There he is. He's just full of energy now that he's retiring in a few weeks, right? He's done an amazing job trying to bridge the gap between the Ministry of Transportation and the region, trying to pull it all together and help make this actually happen. I said to you at the Four Mayors, which I will be giving you an update actually, the Four Mayors lunch, that the 406 is on track. And we made the right decisions over the past couple of years. And even yesterday, the chairman will be pleased to hear this. It seems like MTO is even moving even faster. So your work has paid off, according to what I heard yesterday when I came to City Hall. It's moving forward, but there's this other kind of dynamic you need to understand when it comes to transportation. Welland was identified as an economic gateway center. And that diamond that we got, the only one in the province of Ontario, extended to Port Colborne and included the industrial lands along the 140. Some of the best industrial lands in Niagara are there. It also identified the economic gateway zone, being Niagara Falls and Fort Erie. So now you can start seeing the map behind me and start piecing together the blob of blue and the blob of red. Well, wouldn't it make sense to connect those industrial lands in the economic gateway center to the opportunities in the economic gateway zone? And note they happen to be right next to the Peace Bridge, which from what I understand reading today's paper, the design has changed one more time. But that's okay. It's an EA process. Things happen during the EA process, and we'll do the right things. But it's moving forward, right? It's moving forward. Imagine if there was a trade corridor between the industrial lands in the 140 and the QEW. Kind of sounds like the Mid-Peninsula Corridor, if you think about it. Kind of sounds like Niagara is going to just do it and not wait for anyone else to come along and do it for us. And that's the type of leadership I think you've been expecting from us, right? Action. You'll see in the top right-hand corner, the EA process, regional council put money into the budget this year for that. Now, I liked when Vance Badaway at Niagara, we talked about this. He said shovels were going to be around in 2009. I like the aggressiveness of Mayor Badaway. The graph says 2010, 2011. So I'm going to stick with Mayor Badaway, and we're going to push for shovels in the ground. But I think there is a thoughtful process of what we can do in 2008, in 2009, with some action happening in the 2010-2011 budget process. So what are we looking at? We're looking at some type of highway, some type of road network that connects those industrial lands to basically the Peace Bridge. And you know that you've been seeing investment in Welland when it comes to industrial expansion. You've seen it. You've seen the landscape change. I'm sure some of you, if you take a drive into some parts, aren't going to believe that that factory is actually back and working. So when it comes to transportation routes, it's actually moving forward. I know there's a piece of transit to this, and I'll talk about that when I get to my final thoughts. So 406 is moving forward. The push was to make it all the way to East Main Street in Welland. You're going to see some type of trade core develop over the next few years if the EA process and if Regional Council approves those investments, connecting our industrial lands to the Peace Bridge and bringing those two economic centers together. You're actually saying what it is that you've been asking for in my past 5 years in office. Issue number 4, taxes. The business community told me taxes was important. What a surprise, eh? But they made it number 4. And that was a surprise to me. Usually you think it's number 1, right? So I think the way I interpret this is, we're with you, there's a lot of issues that are going on. By the way, the burden for taxes is kind of high. And in no way am I going to beat anybody up when it comes to this, including myself, but I do want to give you a sense of it. Because I know there's been some interesting reaction to the city's budget that we passed that was just below 6 about a week or 2 ago. There's a graph up, and if you take a look at your property taxes, 14% of that goes to the education school boards, 44% goes to the region, 41% comes to the city. So when people see that $4,000 tax bill, what am I getting for $4,000? Well, let's peel off the school board, let's peel off the region, and then we can have a conversation, right, about what it is that you're getting from us. If you take a look at, and I thank the Tribune, they did a pretty good job helping us articulate, we put unprecedented amount of money, and we have been doing it regularly, into infrastructure, right? And because of the fact that, and it's just a reality of government, our union negotiated a 3.2% increase. Wages represent over 50, just under 60% of our entire budget. You do the math, you're guaranteed you're working with around 2% no matter what. And that's just status quo. The gas prices, the cost of utilities, that drives it up a little bit, cost of insurance, you're at 3. And you might say, well, pull back, tear back. Okay, no problem. This is where we spend the money on, bottom left-hand corner, okay? Talks about 23%, actually 24% goes into the things that you've been asking for when it was infrastructure and transportation is roads. That's where we're putting it, 24%. I think you'll be surprised to know, and the chief is here. I love the chief, he's a good man. But almost 20% goes into fire. 18. Okay, 18. 18. I love the chief, you hear me? I love the chief. But 18%, now you say, well, fire. We are one of only 3 municipalities that has full-time firefighters. Others are composite forces where the overwhelming majority is volunteers, and then you've got municipalities that have volunteers. Between Welland and St. Catharines, it goes back and forth with best response times in Niagara. That's what you're paying for. You're paying for those extra minutes that a firefighter will be there to save your family. I think it's worth it. You may also think it's worth it, but we have to explain that, 18%, and what you're getting for that, and how important that is, right? Now, I'm sure the chairman, you're doing the State of the Region soon too, right, Mr. Chairman? He'll talk about the 44% that goes to the region later, right? The other thing that I would like to share with you, if you don't mind, is also libraries represent about 5% of our budget, that the city funds libraries. Now, I don't think there's anybody here that says, well, why don't you cut that? We don't need libraries. I don't think that at all. Our actual rates are up in terms of participation. They're using the computer terminals, they're coming in and using the periodicals, they're using the videos. That new facility is absolutely fantastic. And Janet, yes, the library's here. Great job with that facility and how you're meeting the needs of our citizens and partnering with so many groups in the community. I don't see anything that I'm willing to cut, but I know we have to justify why taxes are the way they are. And someone came to City Council a week or 2 ago and asked the question, well, where do you get the money from? And when Bruno Silvestri gave that answer, I thought I had to repeat it here. 60% of all of the money that we spend comes from property taxes. Of that money that comes from property taxes, 70% comes from residential. Now, we all know the hardship we've been